Right, I'm pleased to introduce Fiona Crouch from Natural England today, who's going to talk to us about saving our seabeds by restoring, educating and reducing recreational pressure. So over to you, Fiona.
Thanks very much. Well, thanks so much for inviting me to talk to you today. As I said, I'm Fiona Crouch, work at Natural England, and I'm the ReMEDIES Project Manager. And so ReMEDIES, as you'll see up there at the top of the slide, is an acronym for Reducing and Mitigating Erosion and Disturbance Impact Affecting the Seabed. So it's a bit of a mouthful, so we just refer to the project as ReMEDIES. So what I'd like to do in my presentation is tell you a bit more about the project. So to start off with just the key issues that we wanted to try and address through the work we're doing, and then about the ReMEDIES partnership and our objectives, and then through that title, so our restoration work, education and awareness, and how we are trying to reduce recreational pressures. And then just a little bit about the end is our monitoring and evaluation. And then, as I say, we can have any easy questions at the end, or maybe a general discussion depending on timings. So just to start with, so the key issues that we're looking around the work we're doing. So really, so our oceans, they need to be in good condition. And we're very aware, I'm sure we're all very aware of that at the moment. It provides oxygen and it's crucial for our survival, our food, and it has lots of things that we need to survive. So it has to be in good condition. So a couple of habitats we're focusing on is seagrass and merle, and those are easily damaged by disturbance such as scouring and abrasion. And then few people know actually about our seabeds, our sensitive features. They're below the waves, and unless you're as lucky as I am to go diving, it's hard for people to actually maybe appreciate how beautiful and important those habitats are, unlike, say, maybe if you go walking through a woodland or a wildflower meadow. So it's important we try and raise awareness of those habitats. Large areas of seabeds within SACs, so those are special areas of conservation, are currently in unfavourable condition. Now that term unfavourable condition is used within the EU Habitats Directive, which was used to designate those special areas of conservation. And it's the governments that have these SACs, it's their responsibility to ensure the habitats that those areas are designated for are in favourable condition, and if they fall into unfavourable, then you have to do things to get them back up to favourable condition. So that's why important. And if you're thinking about habitats directives and Brexit, well, over the last few years, there's been a lot of work being done by Natural England and DEFRA to bring all that legislation that we had under the Habitats Directive, or all the EU legislation, into the Environment Bill, which is going through its last phases through Parliament at the moment. So there will still be that requirement to make sure that the habitats are in this favourable condition. There's been a significant long-term reduction in seagrass extent and quality. In the 1930s, there was a wasting disease, which basically wiped out about 92% of our seagrass meadows and then that hasn't really recovered, or very few meadows have been able to recover. So there's been a huge significant loss in seagrass meadows over time. And then merle beds, another habitat that we're looking at, is slow growing, it's very fragile, and really once it's damaged, and once it's wiped out, it really doesn't recover. So it's really important that we try and conserve those habitats. And then finally, recreational pressures are increasing. So this is an issue that we're looking at, and we understand that these habitats are affected by many different activities. And things like water quality, we would have seen recently in the news about this discharges of raw sewage. So water quality is really important. Also high nutrients, that's going to have an impact. But we thought that there's a lot of work being done on those different activities, but yet there was little known really about recreational pressures. And this was kind of highlighted in about 2010 around the Studland Bay, where there was quite a bit of upset between the boating community and conservation bodies. So through a number of workshops, we sort of decided that there needed to be some more evidence and work done with the boating community and other recreational activities to try and address these recreational pressures. And I'm sure during COVID, I don't want to mention that word too often, but there has been a lot of interest in recreational activities, and that pressure has actually, I would say, increased. If you live by the coast, I live here in Plymouth, I go down to my local beach, and the number of people, for example, who are now falling in love with stand-up paddleboarding has actually gone through the roof. So those impacts are taking effect. So with all those issues in mind, we managed to get some funding to develop the Life Recreation ReMEDIES project. It's a 4-year project. It started in July 2019 and we're due to completion in October 2023. But as I say, due to delays that we had last year, when basically everyone was shut down, we're looking to hopefully extend the project into 2024, just so we can really achieve all that we wanted to do at the start of the project. And it will improve the condition of 4 marine habitats of European importance. So as I said before, these are the habitats that the special areas of conservations were designated under, and in particular these Annex 1 habitats, which are mainly these sandbanks, slightly covered by seawater all the time, mudflats and sandflats, large shallow inlets and bays, and estuaries. So quite a lot of sandy, muddy stuff, but species such as seagrass and merle love occupying those sandy, muddy stuff. So those are the habitats that are a big focus of our work. So it's a partnership project led by Natural England, and we have the Royal Yachting Association alongside their environmental body, the Green Blue, and they're a fantastic partner to have because they give us that road into and those links with the boating community. Marine Conservation Society, well, I'm sure you're aware that they've done amazing work to conserve our UK coast and further afield. And they're really focusing on their education work within the project, and also Sea Search, their volunteer divers, are helping us with our monitoring. The Ocean Conservation Trust, which are based at the National Marine Aquarium in Plymouth, they've been doing a lot of work on seagrass over the last about 10 years. And so they're leading on our restoration work. And also they've employed an education officer. So they're doing some great work around our education. And then finally, Plymouth City Council, alongside Tamar Estuaries Consultative Forum, which is TECF. One of our areas, which I'll just show you in a minute, is Plymouth Sound and Estuaries, and they're responsible for the management of that site. So it's great to have them on board. And as I said, it's funded by EU, so EU Life funding, and they provide 60% of the funding, and then the remaining 40% is met by our partners around those particular areas of work. So these are areas that we're working in. So from west to east, we have the Isles of Scilly Complex, Fallon Helford, Plymouth Sound and Estuaries, Solent Maritime, and Essex Estuaries. And the reason we've chosen these sites is because we have the most evidence that our seagrass and those habitats are unfortunately in unfavourable condition. So that's why we are focused on here, but we hope that the work that we're doing can then extend into other special areas of conservation around the UK and then also further afield. So objectives and scope, but there's 3 objectives. So the first one is protect and reduce recreational pressure to England's most important and at risk intertidal and subtidal seagrass and merle beds. The merle beds really are the area that we have merle is in the Fallon Helford SAC. And as I say, try and move that condition from unfavourable to favourable. And we're doing that by mainly sort of targeting training of boaters and train the trainers. So that gives a legacy of the project so they can go on and instruct others. And then we have quite a significant social science element, which is looking and understanding and stakeholder behaviours, so those people that are undertaking recreational activities, and looking at their attitudes and values and how we can hopefully change those values if needed to have a positive effect on our seabeds. So second one is demonstrate large-scale restoration and management techniques. As we were saying, so use advanced mooring systems. I'll explain a bit about that further in the presentation. Look at voluntary codes around trying to manage the access. So SACs such as the Essex estuaries and Solent have large areas of intertidal that are subject to quite a lot of impact from recreational activities. And maybe looking at managing access, and then, as I said, the seagrass restoration. And then finally, it's not, there's no point in doing all this work if we don't promote the awareness and make sure that we are communicating all this work to the wider population, inspire better care by recreational users, talk to stakeholders and networks and the public, local, national and transnational. And we'll be doing this through our education and communication and network. And that has to go not only in the UK, but across Europe because we are funded by Europe. So as the title said, restoration. So this is what we want to restore. This amazing habitat. So we have an ambition within the project to restore 8 hectares of seagrass or Zostra marina. It's home to a myriad of marine life, included protected species such as seahorses, as we heard earlier, which will have a talk at the beginning of the year, and the stalked jellyfish, which is up here. And the plan is for 4 hectares in Plymouth Sound and estuaries and 4 hectares in the Solent Maritime. And actually the need to restore and rewild is actually increasing, and there's more and more initiatives looking at the ways we can do that. And just to bring it to COP26, it's interesting that Sir David Attenborough's speech at the opening ceremony, he said, nature is our ally, restore the wild to capture carbon to help bring back balance to our planet, which I thought was really cool. So it's fantastic that ReMEDIES is presently the largest restoration project in the UK. So it's great to be involved in this work. And the first step to that work is, what we did in the very first stages is at the National Marine Aquarium in Plymouth, built this cultivation lab. And it has 2 purposes. One is it's a fantastic display. It's open to the public. So if anyone's down in Plymouth and goes to the aquarium, you can have a look. And you'll see in this central picture here that behind the scenes in this gallery is a big tank room. So we have many tanks in there with a seawater circulation system. And that's where, one, we can cultivate the seagrass from seeds. And then also, once the seeds are collected, the material is actually put into those tanks. So the seed can actually fall out of the flowering plant and then can be collected. Unfortunately, there was quite a lot of seed collected this year. And as you can imagine, all that rotting material created quite a stink in the aquarium. So they had to solve that rather rapidly as it wasn't good for the public visiting. But it's a great facility. And as I say, you can go in and look at that. So what I'll do is I'll be quiet for a minute, and I've got a video to display that hopefully will work, fingers crossed, which just tell you a little bit more about the work that they're doing at ACT at the start of the project with the restoration.
Hi everyone, my name is Emma and I am the Cultivation Officer for the Ocean Conservation Trust, and we're here today in our seagrass lab at the National Marine Aquarium. So this lab was set up as part of the Recreation ReMEDIES project, This project is looking to restore and conserve seagrass beds along the south coast of England, and this lab is a really important step in doing that restoration work. So we've been really busy here at the Ocean Conservation Trust over the last couple of months trying to restore seagrass beds. And the first stage in restoring seagrass bed is to collect seagrass seed from the natural environment. So each year seagrass flower and produce seed just like normal grasses, and we went out and collected this seed from the reproductive shoots. We did this by using divers, and we have some seed here rotting out in our specially built tanks, and we collect the seed naturally, we store the seed in the lab, and then we plant the seed into special planting units, and we allow the seed to grow to seedling here in the lab facility. And once the seed has grown into a strong seedling, we replant the seed back into the marine environment.
So that just tells you a little bit more about the work that they're doing there. We're collecting the seagrass seed. So the first step was getting the lab ready and then going out to collect some seeds. But also what we wanted to do is to develop a habitat suitability model. I'm not a modeler, so please don't ask me any hard questions about modeling. But it was important that we found the optimal sites within the two areas where we're doing the restoration in Plymouth Sound and Estuaries and Solent Maritime. So under a contract with Exeter University, they developed this model, and the data that was put in was, for example, on the presence and absence of seagrass and environmental variables such as slope, wave action, nutrient levels, etc. And then you get these maps that comes out of the thing. And I found this little pointer, which I don't know will work or stuff everything up. So luckily, the results of the model showed that actually the areas where there are seagrass is suitable. And you can see, for example, in Plymouth Sound, this area, there's a good seagrass meadow here in Corsand. But you can see that the model shows that that area of seagrass could extend further along the coast. So there's further areas that can thrive. And then around here, this is Jennycliff Bay on the east of Plymouth Sound. And this is actually where we've started the restoration work, which started in April this year. And actually there's some seagrass around there, but it's really quite patchy. So basically where that little pointer is, if you can see that, this is the area, the 4 hectares that we'll be restoring. And then over here in the Solent, so the restoration work here will start next spring. And the idea is to plant 4 hectares here. This is the Bewley River, you're familiar with the Solent, and we'll be planting in this area. But it's really interesting actually, because around here, this is Natural England National Nature Reserve, and it's protected, it's internationally important, nationally and internationally important for a lot of breeding birds, such as terns. And when we met the ranger a couple of weeks ago, he was telling us that the tern population hasn't been doing very well over the last few years, and that's mainly because of resource. They don't have enough food. So he's really excited about the prospect of having a seagrass meadow just off the coast here, which will provide food for those birds in future years. So it was really interested to hear it from the perspective of someone that basically works in terrestrial environment with the birds. Turn that laser off. So we've got our model, we've got our lab. Some people are going out to get seed. So what's the next step? You have to get a license from Marine Management Organisation. So because we're putting actively something on a seabed and we're using a vessel to do that, you have to apply for a license, and you have to provide all the details of what you're going to do in that area. And then thankfully, that license was accepted, so that means we could carry out the restoration in Plymouth, and we have to do the same for Solent. So brilliant, we've got a license. Next thing, we've got millions of wild seagrass seeds, as Emma explained in the video. And when we collect them, it's important that we go to areas where there are healthy, thriving seagrass meadows, and the collection is done so they're sort of picking every 1 in 3 flowering plants. So there's a lot left. We're not kind of wiping out the whole area. And interestingly, for seagrass is majority of reproduction occurs through the rhizome, so the root systems, and actually about 99% of the seeds are actually lost. So they're either eaten or the flowering plants, shoots will just float away, and so they won't actually generate plants. So collecting the seeds in this way is not really harming the meadow, because we certainly don't want to do that. And actually this year for the future restoration work, they collected 3.2 million seeds. So you can imagine the stink in the aquarium. So those are kept in the tanks. They bring them on. So there's 2 different techniques. One is, as Emma was saying, growing on the seedlings within those bags. And then the second, if you can see over here, is putting the seagrass seeds actually into these Hessian sacks. Now you have to make sure that the material is good enough so that it will actually rot down when it's in the seabed. We don't want to be littering our seabed with a whole load of seed bags. So that has to be tried and tested first. So you've got your seeds, you've got your seed bags, you're growing your seedlings up in that lovely tank space that we have. And then you need an army of volunteers to actually fill those bags. And this happened at the aquarium back in April for the restoration work that happened in Plymouth. 18,000 seed bags were filled to replant 1.2 hectares in Plymouth as the first phase. So really grateful for all the work that the volunteers did. And if you're interested, there's going to be another phase of restoration work in Plymouth at the end of this month, the 28th of November. So if you want to get into filling seed bags, then please do contact the Ocean Conservation Trust, and there'll be more information going out on our social channels as well. So please keep an eye on that if you want to give us a hand and get involved. So you've got your army of volunteers, you've filled all your bags, and then you have to find a way to get that seagrass back onto the seabed. Now, this is quite challenging anyway, but then within COVID world, it became even more of a challenge. So the technique was to go out from Plymouth on this barge, which was provided by the Catwater Commissioners, so very grateful for them. And that's gone a bit haywire, but gosh, okay, don't do that. That's gone a blank space. There's meant to be a little video running there, but it's not going to work. But anyway, so they go out, put all the seeds on the barge, and then as you'll see up here, there's these little tubes that they put down, which is basically a drain pipe, and that makes sure that the bags can actually be dropped and be below the prop wash. So what happens is the barge goes along, which should be on this video here, which is not working, goes along and then at slow speed, and the bags are dropped basically 1 every second. And then you get about a ½ meter spacing on the seafloor. So that's how they're sent down. And then of course divers will go down and inspect them and make sure they're okay. So sorry about that little video, it might all get upset. But jeopardy of putting videos in your PowerPoint. Maybe I'll show it to you at the end if it's all good. So that's for the restoration. So that's how it's been done. As I say, it's in a step phase. So we're doing more in Plymouth this autumn, and then we go to Solent, and then we'll be doing different areas at a time. So education and awareness. So this has been led by Ocean Conservation Trust with their education officer. So one part of that is an innovative schools programme, and it's innovative in the way that it's not going out to thousands and thousands of children. What they're doing is a very phased education programme, which is aiming to at least go to 900 children, but it's working through the years, so the same class for the next couple of years. So actually their understanding of the work and seagrass, etc., develops over time, which is a bit different than just sort of going in, doing a few activities and going away again. And so that's sort of being trialled, the activities being trialled in Plymouth at the moment. And then the plan is to extend that programme out to other schools adjacent to the SACs where we're working. So hopefully be moving out to the Solent and then to Essex and beyond. And you'll see from this photograph up in the corner here, one of the activities is they actually get to grow seagrass in their classroom, and it has actually worked. So that's a fantastic activity for school children. And as I said, we had the display at the National Marine Aquarium that we saw in the cultivation lab, which is fantastic. So, you know, they have thousands of visitors at the aquarium. So that's a great way to tell people more about the importance of these habitats. Delivery of webinars. Yeah, that wasn't plan A, but with when we couldn't go out to events, etc., then a lot of things went online. So we had the Marine Conservation Society did a Ocean Superheroes series, which they're still continuing with now. And the aquarium, they had the Save Our Seabed webinar series, and all these are still available on YouTube. So you can still get them online. So it's been quite interesting. Actually, we've been forced to do webinars because of circumstances, but actually the reach we get is probably increased. And then also everything is now online, as I'm sure this will be for people to watch whenever they like. So through the Marine Conservation Society Sea Champions, again, they go out to a lot of events and through their activities. So they're spreading the word about the ReMEDIES work and the seagrass and these sensitive habitats. So attendance at events and conferences, we're just getting back into those now, which is a great opportunity to tell people about our work. And also, so they went to the Southampton Boat Show this year, which did actually happen as it should. So that's great. And so next year, fingers crossed, all being well, we'll be out there attending all these conferences, events, and spreading the word. And then we have a series of interpretation boards that we're developing that will go into marinas and also around to our sites. Interestingly, what we've learned talking to the boating community is they, you know, the majority, they really want to protect the sites, and they weren't aware maybe that seagrass is below their hull. But also what they have said is they actually don't know where it is. It's not on charts. So it's not on apps, or, you know, it's really hard to find. So that's one thing we are doing within the project, is developing these maps from the data we have, so that people do actually know where the seagrass is, and then hopefully they can avoid that. And then we've got a series of infographics that you'll see one there on the left-hand side of the screen. So these are all available on our project website, which the address is, wait for it, saveourseabed.co.uk. And you'll see, so this is the front page. So all the work that we'll be doing with ReMEDIES is on this amazing, brilliant, as I do say, website. There's news and blogs, and as I say, there is the education work on there. So if you go to get involved and go down, there's an area for teachers, and all the activities and the work that we're doing, it's actually up there on the website. So that's a great resource for the project, and please do visit it and keep visiting it, because as the project develops, more and more information will go on there. So let's go through the education, and that kind of leads also into our reducing recreational pressure. And as I say, there's lots of pressures on our seabed, and our marine environment is very resilient, but actually but all these different little pressures just build up, and it just makes it really hard for these sensitive habitats to thrive. So it's really important we try and do what we can to try and protect it. So as I say, big area of our work is around this behaviour change with the values and understanding, and just trying to explain to people in a positive manner measures that they can take to try and reduce their pressures. So we've developed these behaviour change strategies for each of our special areas of conservation around the ReMEDIES interventions. Now, interventions is a word that I was probably never in my vocabulary until I started this job. So these are the things that we are doing through the project, such as interpretation boards, such as our advanced mooring systems, which I'll tell you about in a minute. So all these different voluntary codes. So these are our interventions. So we have these strategies to see how these will actually work, and do they actually help change people's behaviours. And as we know, behaviour change is not going to happen overnight. It could be a very long process. So we're hoping we'll make positive steps at the start, and then through the legacy of the project, it will continue. So training instructors and charter boat skippers, oops. So they're really important as well. So talk to them, and so it's all about this, making people aware of what's actually below their hull, and also the other recreational activities, actually the potential impact they're having just entering and exiting the water, especially in intertidal areas. The RYA, the Green Initiative, produced an anchoring and mooring guide that you'll see here. So if people are anchoring in seagrass areas, and seagrass likes growing in sheltered bays where people like to anchor to enjoy the scenery and have their lunch, then there are ways that you can do it that minimises the impact on the seabed. So we're trying to encourage people through this guide to try and use those techniques. And then again, also promoting an event. So the top picture there, that's a couple of our team who were at the Southampton Boat Show doing different activities and talking about the project. To try and gauge and get an idea of these recreational impacts and the amount of people within the SACs, we've done recreational activity surveys at the start of the project to just get an idea of the intensity in particular areas. And of course, we did some of those last year, and because of COVID, it's different than we would normally expect when we sort of started out on this project. So it's interesting that actually COVID has kind of added an extra element to our way of thinking and how people are actually engaging with the marine environment. But those surveys will be repeated at the end of the project, so it'd be interesting to see how things change, and also how our world changes. Hopefully we come out of this pandemic. We've put in voluntary no anchor zone. So there's been one installed in Plymouth Sound around the restoration area, and that's to protect it. It's voluntary, so we are relying on people's willingness to avoid that area. Having the markers and the signs on there helps. This one is actually not very far from my house, so if I need a break from the laptop, I'll go up there and have a look, and 99% of the people, which is amazing, are really respecting that no anchor zone, so that is fantastic. And then a bigger piece of our work is these trials of advanced mooring systems. So traditional mooring, so this is actually a scar, or I could use my laser pointer, fancy pantsy thing. This is a scar of a traditional mooring on the seagrass. And so a traditional mooring will have an anchor block at the bottom and then have quite a large area of chain, which actually scours, so produces this scour. And then they have a riser and then a surface marker buoy. But advanced mooring systems, but it used to be called eco moorings, environmentally friendly moorings, but we like to think they are advanced, not only better for the marine environment, but also better for the boat systems. And so they have this tiny footprint, which is this helical anchor here, and either have an elastic rod or they have a chain that then has these floats. So this lifts the riser, whether it be a chain or a lat, off the seabed. So actually you don't have this scour. And so I have got a video showing it, but whether it will play or not is another question. So this is a system called the Sterling Advanced Mooring System, which is actually previous to ReMEDIES. If you were installed at Corsan Bay, and you can see here, oh, you probably don't need my breathing. I took that photo image, breathing away. You'll see that the chain is actually lifted off the seabed and just held by these buoys. So it is a simple system, but surveys have shown that the seagrass, which at the start was had been scoured away, is now growing back. So that's excellent news. And so within ReMEDIES, we're actually hoping to install up to 70 advanced mooring systems within the project area, and about 30 around Plymouth Sound. So, so that's really good to see, and we'll be monitoring those as well. So, talking about monitoring, so as I say, we're funded by Life, so obviously they want to see that the money is well spent and the work we're doing. And as I said at the beginning, with these issues and needing more evidence, that's what we want to provide. So we have to have, and we do have, an extensive monitoring and evaluation program connected to the project. So what we've done for the areas is baseline monitoring the seagrass meadows and well beds. We did a couple of sites last year, and this is again really why we want to extend the project for another year, because the time between doing the work and actually the end of the project has been condensed because of work we couldn't do last year. So we've got the baseline surveys at the start of the project, and then those will be repeated at the end to look at the condition of those habitats over time, which hopefully would have improved. We have Sea Search, as I said, with the Marine Conservation Society. Their volunteers are doing an excellent job by providing the biodiversity data for the SACs around those habitats. So I don't know if you're familiar with Sea Search, but it's a very knowledgeable, fantastic group of volunteers who actually go out diving, pay for themselves, and they record all the different species within certain area during their dive. So we're collecting all that data, and they're doing that for ReMEDIES, which is fantastic. And they were doing repeated dives throughout the 4 years of the project. As I say, we had those recreational surveys for recreational activity at the start, and they'll be repeated at the end. We need to look at the restoration success. We've got those two different methods, maybe which one works best, because hopefully the work we're doing will inform others as more restoration work hopefully comes online as time goes by. The mooring trials, so we'll get the moorings in, and then we need to see if they are actually effective. are not only effective for the marine environment, so for the seagrass or the mill, but also for boat owners. So we need to talk to the boat owners, the mooring holders, to see how they feel about using these new systems. And we hope that, and preliminary studies from the first 5 advanced mooring systems were placed in core sand with Marine Conservation Society and Ocean Conservation Trust prior to ReMEDIES, have shown that one seagrass goes back, and actually the mooring holders are really pleased with the system, and they've actually gone on to encourage others within core sands to trial these new systems. So that's fantastic news. And then we need to look at our interventions that we're doing. Are they have a positive impact? Are we doing a good job? Do we need to change the way we're doing things? So all that is really important. And then we have a whole area around social and economic impact. So this is about, you know, bringing jobs into the area. So it's given me a job. We have a couple of posts at the Ocean Conservation Trust. Also, how many volunteers are involved, economics in the area. So that's quite a big piece of our work. And then finally, maybe just to blow your brains a bit, I don't know if anyone's keen on social science and how things do this in evaluation, that we've developed what they say is a theory of change, which is a big old buzzword these days. Certainly Natural England are very keen on theories of change and more evaluation of their work. And basically it's a step process. So we have our activities and outputs. So this is the work we want to do. And then also our outcomes, what do we want for the project? And then finally, we hopefully will do all this work through this theory of change. And at the end, this is what we want to achieve. This is our impact. So seabed ecosystems are healthier in project areas, seagrass and mearl beds are thriving, boating communities are more connected to these areas, valuing them as places to preserve and visit, and as a natural resource provider of ecosystem benefits. So that's our overall plan for the project, and hopefully come 2023 or 24, we will achieve at least some of this. And it's important to mention that through the EU LIFE programme is we have to write an afterlife plan. So their expectation is that the work doesn't finish at the end of the funding, and that we gather stakeholders together, interested parties, and develop a plan to see how the work that we've done through ReMEDIES can be continued for at least another 5 years. And so all those moorings, etc., will continue to be used for conservation purposes at least for another 5 years, and hopefully beyond that. So it's good to have that in place, because we know so many projects can just end once the funding ends. So there is that aspiration that it will continue. Fingers crossed. So that's it. Thank you for listening. We're on all the social media channels. As you say, we on our website, that will be updated regularly. So now I'll see if there's any questions, and I'll stop sharing my screen, because at the moment I can't see anyone. I'm just talking to myself in my spare bedroom. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for a fascinating talk, Fiona. We've got time for a couple of questions. I did say that my camera might go a bit weird. It looks like it started doing it now. Let me just get the questions up. So we've had a few, so I'm going to have to be a bit selective. So let's see. So Stephen Green wanted to just clarify. He said that he didn't think seagrass was taxonomically in the grass family Poaceae. So would you like to clarify where seagrass fits taxonomically? Is that okay?
Well, I'm not a scientist, but it is a flowering plant. So it's our only marine flowering plant. So it does have, it does produce flowers, and it does produce seeds, and then the rhizome bed. So I'm not sure where it sits on the taxonomic tree. That's a tricky one for me, but it is a flowering plant and a grass, maybe, or maybe you can tell me otherwise.
I'm not a botanist, so yeah.
Yeah, no, thanks for the tricky first question.
Yeah, sorry. Right, okay, an easier one for you. This is from Judy. She asks if you're involved with Project Seagrass at all.
Thank you, Judy. Yes, we are, actually. That's a good question. It's good to point that out, that with the different restoration programs going on, we are talking to each other, which is fantastic. And Project Seagrass are doing amazing work. And they're also looking to do some restoration in the Solent. So we have a Solent restoration working group, so that we can all work together and also learn. It's all lessons learned, so it's all pretty new. So yeah, no, we're in constant contact with them.
So I'm going to do a little bit of another shameless plug again here, because Kim has asked, she said she's assuming that you're working with the Seahorse Trust on this project. She believes that they've tried the voluntary no anchor zone at Studland Bay to Dorset, no good effect. So are the Seahorse Trust an organisation that you've engaged with on the project, or?
We don't engage so much with the Seahorse Trust, unless we find any seahorses. We are aware of the work that they're doing in Studland Bay, but Studland isn't within one of our SACs, so we're not sort of really focusing so much. But I do know that they have, they are trialling a couple of different moorings there as well. So
the projects complement each other, but they're not necessarily linked.
We hope so, yeah. We like to think so, yeah.
Okay. Right. We've got another one from Stephen Green. This should be a simple one for you, I hope.
That's it.
What did you make the seed bags out of?
So it's an ethically sourced kind of Hessian mat that they got in. So yeah, it's kind of a Hessian course, but it breaks down. It was interesting that they found that it broke down quicker in the cultivation labs in the tanks, but now, so it was a bit slower when it was put out Plymouth Sound, but they are rotting away nicely now. So hopefully the little seagrass seeds are out in the big wide world and thriving.
So I've got a question from Catherine here that you may or may not be able to answer. So obviously Fiona is from Natural England, but Catherine would like to know if there are other seagrass restoration projects around the UK, for example, the Welsh coast. So are you aware of anything in Scotland, Northern Ireland or Wales that's tackling these issues as well?
Yeah, so as I said, sort of when ReMEDIES was developed, I think sort of this rewilding and restoring was kind of a new thing, but it's really developing, which is fantastic. So Project Seagrass did do a small area of restoration around Dale, which they're still monitoring, and they're looking to do more restoration in those areas. And I do know, and I don't know the name offhand, and I've really just learned about it through social media, through Twitter, that there's a community group up in Scotland who are doing fantastic job of collecting seeds, and they're going to start doing some restoration. So there's lots of great work going on, and seagrass grows everywhere. So it grows from the Orkneys down to the Isles of Scilly. So yeah, there's lots of opportunities to hopefully restore seagrass, because it is so important now with the whole blue carbon agenda and the amount of carbon that it can actually sequester. So it is a really important habitat.
We've answered another question there, because Stephen had asked how far north will our seagrass beds
I know,
go?
I saw it popped up.
Right,
I saw it pop up.
Two birds, one stone.
Yeah.
Right, I think we'll end with one last question. We've got a question from Nikki. So she's commented that she's seen a film in which seagrass was being swept away in big storms. So is this something that we've considered, or that we're concerned about, considering the Celtic wind?
It can be a concern, and I think this is again comes to our more violent weather. Sometimes when you see a lot of seagrass washed up, though, it can be a consequence that sort of nearer the end of the year, it kind of, a lot of it dies off. so it will just slough off and disappear. So it's not always a huge concern so much, but what happens is in some areas of seagrass, when it gets patchy, so say if there's a mooring scar, it's been damaged, then it is more vulnerable to them being sort of destroyed by like heavy weather. So that will have a bigger impact. So a sort of good, dense, healthy bed is more likely to survive sort of violent storms. But it is something to consider. But if you see a lot washed up, it might not necessarily mean that the whole meadow is gone. Or something.
I'm guessing if you're a seagrass bed growing off the coast of Orkney, you're probably quite used to extreme weather anyway.
Yeah, they're quite resilient. And interestingly, there's in Europe, there's a project that they're using seagrass as insulation, house insulation, because around sort of Denmark, around the coast there, they get masses and masses, tons and tons of seagrass washed up on the shore. And so they've been collecting that, and then they dry it out, and then they make it into house insulation. So I don't know if we'll ever get enough seagrass around our coast to end up using its house insulation. So, but it was quite an interesting project that I saw. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for today, Fiona.
No, thank you.